So now a lot of people who, let's say, follow TLA,
Mm-hmm.
you see this nice little sweet lady that shows up and says, "That's Maggie, the substitute teacher." And everybody will look at you and say, "Hey, I wonder if she's a substitute teacher in the high school. I wonder if she's a substitute teacher in the middle school. Hey, she looked like the sweet substitute teacher that will come in my class."
I am so glad that you asked, and thank you so much for asking me to speak tonight. It is absolutely an honor. And Maggie, the substitute teacher, is about teaching the substitutions in food that I have made on my health and wellness journey. And I always say I substitute the foods that I used to love for the foods that love me back. So that's what we talk about on my YouTube channel. But I do come from a family of educators, and I'm big on education. So that's Maggie, the substitute teacher.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. How did you get into having to substitute or get into that area of substituting foods that you like versus foods that's better for you?
Absolutely. So, like a lot of people can probably relate, I have struggled with my weight growing up. I was the, I guess, chubby kid, came from a normal sized family, but I was the one that was on diets, since I can remember. And I had a very unhealthy relationship with food. And I just kind of bought into the lie that, I'm a big girl or I'm big boned, because I thought I had to choose between liking what was on my plate and not liking my body, or liking my body and hating what was on my plate. And so the story goes, I just accepted that lie until one day at work, I saw someone who had lost weight. And like we always do, "Oh, what are you doing?" Kind of thinking maybe there's, something I haven't tried. And my friend and coworker said she went to get her gut health checked. And I had never heard that before. So fast forward, I made an appointment with a metabolic specialist. And when I went in there, she took one look at me and she said, "You're really not that big. Your frame is not very big. You just have a lot of inflammation." And I had never heard that before. I thought all of the aches and pains and all of the things that were happening to my body, I used to be pre-diabetic. I used to be have elevated cholesterol, borderline blood pressure. All of that has regulated now without any medication. But I did a test in the metabolic specialist office. So for me, that was a cheek swab on the inside,
Right.
some hair samples, and she sent it off and then called me in a few days with a report of all of the foods that I was sensitive to.
I want to go back because you said you had an unhealthy. Would you say that food was your solution for any psychological issues?
I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose, but I know I had an unhealthy relationship with food. It was my happy place, if you will. I think eating should be enjoyable, and I'm so glad that now what I eat does bring me joy. But, what I've shared on my channel, and I don't mind sharing here, I have amazing parents, but I remember, growing up, my mom always cooked for the family, and the family would eat regular food, and then I would have my plate, which was, boiled chicken or plain broccoli or something that really wasn't appetizing. And so I remember as a kid kind of associating healthy food with food that you don't really want to eat. And so fast forward, through the years, graduate, go to college, put on the freshman 15 and then some. And I just remember thinking, like we all do when we leave home, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to go where I want. I'm going to eat what I want. And the weight just started to pack on. And I take full responsibility for that. So, as the years went on and you get married and you have children and then you get divorced, life happens. And the weight was just a constant issue for me.
You're also an engineer. And
I do work in tech.
Yes, and you are also an engineer. How long have you been in engineering, and what kind of engineering are you in?
Okay. So, it's funny, like you said, a lot of people say, oh, I thought she was a real teacher. My actual profession, I am a senior business analyst. So I work in technology. Gratefully, I'm able to work from home, which has allowed me access to the kitchen so that I can actually cook the food that I'm going to eat. I've been a senior BA over 20 years. So I have worked in several different industries, but this role in technology is a great fit for my personality, I believe, because it's kind of in the middle between business people who know what they want but can't really speak that technical language, and technical people who can design anything but they're not the end users of the solution, so they don't really get the user experience. So that's the sweet spot where I sit in between.
Wow, that's deep. So if I was to say it in layman terms, you're that middle ground between, quote, the geek, because geeks works in technology. Us nerds, we're the ones that like to be booky. You're able to combine the two together and make it one. That is awesome. Where your family from?
So I was born in Ghana, which is a beautiful country in West Africa. So I'm actually the daughter of immigrants, and that is a huge part of my upbringing and my perspective on the world. I'm grateful my mom and dad are still with us and they're retired and in the area living life. But I grew up with the understanding that my parents left home and everything that was familiar to them, like a lot of immigrants, to come to America for an opportunity for themselves and for their children. So when we came to the States, I was one. So I've grown up here. So a lot of people think I'm just like any other American, but when you meet my parents, and I've had some videos cooking with Nana, you'll get to see that there's a very different side of me.